interacting with the people of Uganda. So I really want to thank them and wish them a good stay. I've also, of course, encouraged them to use part of the time to visit our tourist attractions. So in all, thank you for coming. Thank you for the honor to host us in hosting our country. This week has been very, very busy for the judiciary. It's, Your Excellency, it's under the confidence the region has in the Republic of Uganda that we're able to hold 3 judicial conferences in the same week in Uganda. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Rebecca Kadaga. I would like to now invite the Honorable Chief Justice Alphonse Owin-Dolo to give his remarks. And once he gives his remarks, I would also like to request that he invites His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, to officially give his closing remarks. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, my sister and brother Chief Justices of partner states of the East African Community, the Right Honorable Minister of East Africa and Deputy Prime Minister, distinguished guests in your various capacities. Your Excellency, before I invite you, let me say 2 things. One, we hail you as a leading personality in the revival and expansion of the East African community. When I look around, you're the only surviving leader of the 3 of you who caused the revival of the East African community. I think God has left you around for a very big purpose, part of which is being seen, the unprecedented expansion of the communities from 3 to 7 countries in the Interlacustrine region. I do not wish to speak about the other things, the power of having one economic bloc, and so on and so forth, the unity that comes, the peace that results from it. Your Excellency, I want to speak about my constituency. That is the judiciary of the member states and the judiciary of the community. I appeal to the leaders of the community to ensure that we have in each member state a robust and effective judiciary that can give meaning to the unity that comes with a community. In equal measure, a robust and effective judiciary, the East African Court of Justice, to ensure that it can effectively exercise its mandate of interpreting the community treaty and ensuring that the rule of law prevails in the community. We believe that with a strong judiciary of each member state and then of the community that sustains the rule of law, will be in a much better position to sustain the principle and purpose for which we've come together in a block as a community. Second, I would like to assure the East African Court of Justice that our partnership, effective partnership with you, has not begun today. It will not end today. Whenever the East African Court of Justice calls upon us for whatever purpose, and it is within our power, we will always readily and most willingly make our contribution. So as we thank you for rotating your residence, your judicial residence, and it has fallen on Uganda, the next time you are here for whatever purpose, you will not find us wanting. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. We will be together with you until you complete the purpose for which you are here. Your Excellency, with these few words, allow me to exercise the singular honor to invite you and now address these members of the great community. Thank you.
His Lordship, the Chief Justice of Uganda, Alphonse Owiny Dollo, their Lordships, the Chief Justices of the brother countries of East Africa, the Right Honorable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of East African Affairs, all their Lordship, the judges, Secretary General, and all invited persons. I congratulate you on the seminar you have just had here. Thank you very much for coming to have this seminar here. Also, I want to congratulate you on having seminars. These seminars will help to harmonize thinking about our future. Whenever I get a chance to talk to people like you, I am always tempted to push my historical responsibility. And the historical responsibility is the one of the freedom fighters. By 1900, the whole of Africa was being controlled by foreigners, except Ethiopia. And there were reasons why Africa was conquered. Why was it that Africa was conquered by foreigners? What was the problem with our ancestors? How could they fail to defend themselves, to defend our independence? Indeed, many Africans were taken into slavery. You see them. There is a huge population in the USA, in the Caribbean, in Brazil, of Africans. How did they go there? But fortunately, by 1912, new forces started organizing to liberate Africa. Because the ones who had failed to defend Africa were the tribal chiefs. I have a lot of problems with those tribal chiefs. They had enough time. The argument about technology does not arise because when the Western countries went to Japan, Japan was a bit backward in terms of technology. But quickly Japan came up and was able to defend itself against the foreigners, but also compete with them. The same with China. When the Europeans went to China, China was a bit backward technologically. And indeed they tried to take over China. But they couldn't. They just ended up by taking Hong Kong and a few towns. The rest of China defied them. So there are some weaknesses within the African society of before independence that must be understood and avoided. Now, the freedom fighters who took over from 1912, when the ANC was founded in South Africa, had aims. And the aims were, number one, chase foreigners from Africa. Foreign controllers, not foreign tourists or what, no. The ones, the colonizers. And that one we have achieved. By 1994, the last country, South Africa, was recovered. But then, Africa is still weak. And therefore, when I get a chance to talk to the intellectuals, I don't mind whether you are lawyers or economists or reverends. I push our line, because I am in that line of the freedom fighters, the ones who started in 1912. By the time I came on the scene, we were the third generation. The first generation of 1912 had given leadership to the next generation, the ones of the Mandelas and Mwalimu Nyerere and Jomo Kenyatta. Although Jomo Kenyatta could be considered to have been among the first one, because he was already old enough. And therefore, I can't fail to bring up the freedom fighting issues, so that, as Mao was saying, Honorable Mao was saying, you must always contextualize what you are doing, what we are doing. And as he was saying, when you talk of justice, do you limit yourself to just arbitrating a case in court? How about the wider issue, the one of poverty, the one of health, the one of security? You can see that there is a lot of insecurity in much of Africa today. Why? So therefore, when I get this chance, I congratulate you on the seminar you had and the topics you were discussing. I did not acquaint myself with all the topics, but I know for sure one of them, of the mandates under you, especially the East African Court of Justice, is to deal with matters of integration, of integration of East Africa. And that's why, therefore, when I get a chance, I try to say, you people, why do you think we need integration? Why do you need integration? But before integration, I would want to emphasize, because many of you are trained in Western institutions, I studied law for 1 year at the University of Dar es Salaam as a subject. And I know what they were teaching. There was the case of Amukeyo versus Regina, where Amukeyo stole a cow. This was in Kenya. Stole a cow and slaughtered it, and buried the skin under the hut in their house. Now, his wife, of course, knew that Amukeyo had stolen the cow. And I don't know what they quarreled about. The wife went to give evidence against Amukeyo. Then Amukeyo, I don't know who had told him. He had heard of something called the Indian Evidence Act of 18-something. And then he said, you people, this woman is part of me. So she cannot give evidence against me. And then the judge said, rubbish. This act was not meant for you. It was meant for other people, but not you Africans. That's when I lost interest in the war, in the law. I said, what sort of nonsense is this? You know, more. So then, I know the legal system has a lot of, the one we have here has a lot of those Western things, some of which are good, modern, reformist, equality of people, like, for instance, equality between man and woman, and so on. Some of them are good, some are not good. They need to be looked at. But all those were principles, as I was saying the other day among the ladies, the women judges, that those rights, even in Europe, were espoused at a certain stage on account of the socio-economic transformation in the society. The European society was like what we have been having here. You know, women were not respected, a lot of injustice, no individual rights. But because of the socio-economic transformation, society changed. And I quoted the example of, if you go to Europe, 1400, Europe had 3 classes: the feudal class, the peasant class, and the artisan class. That was about 1400. You can go and check this. By the time of the French Revolution, European society, if we take France as an example, had evolved into a 4-class society. The feudalists, a new class had emerged, the middle class. In French, it is called the bourgeoisie. A new class, it had never existed in human history. We never had a middle class in the whole human history of man of 4.5 million years. This is the first time it will emerge. A middle class. That means a middle class means somebody who understood the importance of profit. The difference between the input cost and the final price, and the difference is the profit. And the more profit you get, the better. This was a new development in human history. Then, with the middle class, came another class, which never existed before. And these were the working class. The people who had no other thing to sell except their labor. And then you still had the peasants. This was 1789. So really the intellectual class, wherever you are, in Africa, you need to really watch out, because if not, now if you go to Europe today and you are looking for peasants, they are no longer there. If you say, I'm looking for a peasant, I just want one peasant, you will not get any. Even the feudalists are no longer there really. So what you have now in Europe is a 2-class society, a middle class, different grades of it. There are different grades. If you had read Mao Zedong, he would have helped you to understand the different grades, but people don't want to read Mao Zedong. And the skilled working class. Now here in Africa, with the NRM, people have been talking about it. From the very beginning, you are always talking about it. But people don't get it. So you get a situation where a peasant is producing another peasant. Now, in that situation, okay, and this is the dilemma, because the other day in the women conference, judges conference, I had some of the speakers saying that, oh, you know, there's a problem here. The law, for instance, says defilement is punishable. Here in Uganda, we made the law. When we came, we were so aggressive. We said defilement, having sex with a girl who is below 18 years, is a defilement and will be punished by death. But how many people have been punished for that? And in some of the areas, it is official, 14 years, you are married. Up to now. We are talking, preaching, teenage pregnancy, what. It's now like, but it is going on. Why? Because the society has not changed. We are dealing with the top, the superstructure, the roof of the house, without dealing with the foundation. So therefore, that's why for us, we say, you reformers, you freedom fighters of justice, you preachers in the church, you social scientists of other types, please understand that socio-economic transformation is the base of the journey to greater freedoms for people. And what are the factors that will help us to cause socio-economic transformation? The other day with the women judges, I told them there are two routes where that will help us to cause socio-economic transformation. One of them is universal education. Let all children go to school and study free. And here in Uganda, I have got a lot of struggles with that line. For me, I'm convinced if all the children go to school, government schools, and study free in the primary school, in the secondary school, university, you could have different arrangements, but definitely, and in the technical schools, the three, primary, secondary, technical schools, if they study free there, in the government institutions, it will help the society to change. The rich people, if they want to pay for education, they can pay in the private schools, because the private schools are there. So they can go and pay in the private schools if they don't want their children to be inconvenienced by sitting next to the poor children. They can go to the private schools. But in Uganda here, we have been talking of free education for almost 20-something years now, but it is never implemented. Because people are not convinced. The people who are supposed to do it don't see it. They think that education is a business from which to make money, personal money. The second channel for socio-economic transformation is business. Learning the culture of producing a good or a service for sale, because this is the basis of capitalism. You produce a good, you produce a service, and you calculate the economics of it, what we call in our language here, ekibaro, okubara, kuhesabu, unahesabu, hii kitu nachofanya, nitapata faida kiasi gani. That's capitalism. the consciousness of profit, of maximizing profits and minimizing costs. So if all the families learn that, and in Africa, in Uganda here, it is quite easy to get out of, because we have got what other people don't have. If you go to Europe and you ask how many people have land, very few people have land. But here, everybody has got land. So many people have land. But they don't use it. They don't use it profitably. Many of them are just destroying it. When somebody dies, he has got 6 acres, he has got 12 children, well, maybe he has got 20, 12 of them are boys. The girls don't inherit, of course, the girls are not considered. Then the 6 acres is divided among the 12 children. So an estate which was 6 acres in one generation becomes half an acre, half an acre, half an acre. That blindness. And then you say we have got intellectuals, we have got reverends, we have got bishops, we have got judges and all these people, politicians, ministers, presidents. What are these people doing? Why can't you show these people that they are heading for trouble? If all the land is fragmented, what will happen? How shall we feed ourselves? Some parts of the country can no longer produce food. You know very well, the Ugandans here know very well that that Kabale is one of the richest parts of Africa, of the world actually. But you go there now, they can't produce food because of archaic inheritance practices, bad human settlement. We are talking of PWDs, people with disability. We now have LWD, land with disability. Land is disabled by the intelligentsia actually, because we are the ones who could agree. In the US, they even have a law that when agricultural land, I hear in one of the states, when agricultural land is below a certain acreage, you are not allowed to divide it. I have heard of something like that. The British, the English, long ago, saw this problem of land fragmentation and provided that only the eldest boy will inherit. How about the others? Go to hell. That's none of your business. Yeah. The second one becomes a reverend. The third one becomes a soldier. Finish. The matter is solved. And the girls get married or they go to the convent or whatever. I hear that in Germany, it is a bit something, I think it is the youngest in Germany or something, the one who inherits. Now here, we the NRM have been telling you, please, for us, we don't want you to be as radical as the English, that only one boy inherits. But use shares. Shares kwa Kiswahili tunasema hisa. Tumia hisa, in Uganda we say, in our language here we say emigabo. Let the land be put in shares so that these children inherit shares rather than physical division of the land. And then they can divide the profits according to the shares. But people are not talking about this. You go to the radio, they are talking about this, California, I don't know what. So therefore, I am happy to be here to again remind you of the message of we, the freedom fighters. That number one, we need socio-economic transformation to make these principles of justice in a modern way be on a firm basis rather than this shaky basis. But in order to do this, the society must undergo socio-economic transformation. And socio-economic transformation through what means through education for all and the full monetization of the economy. And once we do that, then we discover something else. But before that, if you can look at the figures now, sometimes when I'm in these meetings, I feel embarrassed. I had some people talking somewhere. They were saying, you know, Africa is a big market. It was a speech somewhere where we were doing something. And the market of Africa is $3.4 trillion. Then the audience clapped. So I felt embarrassed. Do these people know that the economy of Japan alone, is 4.3 trillion? And here they are clapping for the economy of the whole of Africa for whatever it is, 3.4 trillion. This is really not good. Sometimes I'm polite, I don't want to, but this lack of information must stop. To find that the whole of Africa is, I think the United States now is 20-something trillion dollars. The biggest, I think China must be like 14 trillion. Japan is number 3 in the size of the economy. It is 4-point-something trillion. And here you are talking of the whole of Africa. And you quote it as a good example. You are not embarrassed. You are not even looking down. It's really not good. It's not good. So this low level of GDP shows you the low level of mobilization. Because if we are mobilized, our GDP would be much, much bigger, and it will be much bigger. So when we move on the other 2 areas, education for all, in government schools, and free education, then full monetization of the economy, then soon we get into the problem of the market. Who will buy what you produce? Yes, Uganda has got a population of 43 million people, but this market is not enough. That's why Latin America, that's why His Excellency Mathuki was repeating my questions at Independence. I was asking, are there professors of economics in Africa? If they are there, why don't they see this? Even if the politicians didn't see it, but at least the scholars should see it and talk about it. Europe was not transformed by politicians. Adam Smith was not a politician. I don't think Adam Smith stood for elections anywhere. He was a scholar. He saw. Maynard Keynes, he was not a politician. These were scholars. Ricardo, these were not politicians. So expecting politicians, you know what happened with the politicians. If a drunkard is meet somewhere and they are drinking and the elections come, they elect one of their drunkards, so you go and represent us. Now, how do you expect this man to know all these problems? He can go and talk about a few things, but to think that he will automatically have the vision to solve all this historical is not correct. Karl Marx was not a politician. These were scholars. So what are the scholars doing? Why don't they see these dangerous trends in society and in the world? So, if the people wake up and start producing and they are educated, you will find that the internal market of Uganda is not enough. 43 million people are not very many to support big production. As I said at independence, this is part of the problem of Latin America. Latin America has got a lot of resources in terms of water, rivers, but they are badly organized economically and politically, and therefore business cannot easily succeed there. That's why they are always in endless trouble. So therefore, for us here, we said now, once you wake up, you will soon discover that the internal market is not enough. Therefore, you will realize that you need the regional and the continental market. Hence, the political integration, economic and political integration. That's why I'm very grateful to the Wazee, Mzee Hassan Mwinyi, Mzee Arap Moi, Mzee Mkapa. Mwalimu was still alive, he was supporting us. When we brought up this idea again, they supported it. And I'm really very grateful to that historical contribution by the elders, and you should always remember this. Then later on, Rwanda and Burundi came in, and South Sudan, DRC has now come in, and Somalia is coming. Somalia is coming. So, this is the logic of integration, economic integration. We are integrating in order to deal with the issue of prosperity. Prosperity through what? Through production of goods and services. Goods and services which need what? Need a market. A bigger market. The bigger, the better. Now, when you are dealing with the integration, you should, I'll come to that at the end. Then the second element you are looking for is strategic security. If Africa works together, there is no security problem we cannot solve. In 1963, 36 countries met in Addis Ababa, African countries, which had just got independence, and formed the OAU. In their first meeting, you can see the ones who founded the OAU were only 36. But all the African countries are 50-something, 54, I think. So that means another 20 were not yet independent. Even Kenya was not yet independent. And others, Zambia, they were not yet independent. So that first meeting of the African Union, of the OAU, passed a resolution saying that the whole of Africa must be free. Because there were some people who are saying, like the Portuguese. The Portuguese were saying, Mozambique is not a colony. Angola is not a colony. Guinea-Bissau is not a colony. There are overseas provinces of Portugal. Can you imagine? This Africa of yours has got wonders. These Portuguese were saying Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau will never get independence. Why? Because they are part of Portugal. They are just overseas provinces. You Ugandans, you can get independence because you are protectorates. But Angola, Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique are overseas provinces of Portugal. So please don't tell us about independence. Tuba tukyali awo. Ian Smith was saying, for me, I am an African. We say, okay, thank you very much, you are an African. Then have one man, one vote. He said, no, I cannot have one man, one vote, because these people don't know the meaning of democracy. These Africans. So, I am an African, but I will not allow these Africans to vote. And so we were talking about majority rule. In Rhodesia, in Namibia, in South Africa. So, at that meeting, Africa passed a resolution saying that the whole of Africa must be free, either peacefully or by force. The foreigners laughed. Force. What can Africa do? Force. They're just talking. What can Africa do? Led by a few of our leaders, Mwalimu Nyerere, Mzee Kaunda, Seretse Khama, working with the freedom fighters from Mozambique, Angola, all those countries started a program of supporting the freedom fighters. This is 1963. By 1974, we had liberated Mozambique, Angola, and Guinea-Bissau, and even liberated Portugal itself from the fascists who were controlling Portugal. And by 1994, the whole of Africa was free. So it's not true that Africa cannot solve these problems. But the problem is that we are fragmented in effort. That's why we cannot solve small problems like Somalia, this Congo here, DRC. These are small problems. They are not big problems. But if you don't act together, what is small becomes big. And that's why, therefore, on the number one, on prosperity, you need an integrated approach. Number two, on strategic security, you need an integrated approach. Proof is that when we work together, we're able to solve the problems of the colonialists who are refusing to go away. They were forced to go away by military defeat, not the talks on the table. Idi Amin here, who solved the problem of Idi Amin? It was some coordination among ourselves here. Mwalimu Nyerere with a few others. That's how we solved the problem of Idi Amin. And I can quote so many other problems. Somalia would have been taken over by the Al-Shabaab. But we stopped them. And although we are giving a half dose, say half dose there because of some confusion, but at least that problem can be solved completely, very easily. It is just lack of coordination, lack of synchronized thinking. How do you build an army? What sort of army do you build? These are the conceptual misalignments. This one is thinking like this one is thinking like that. That's why you have all these endless little problems, really, with very easy to solve. The issue of money, it's not money, it's not money we need. I have been building army for the last more than 50 years with no money or very little money. That's how we were able to build our defense system here. Either with no money at all or with very little money. In 1976, Mwalimu Nyerere introduced me to Samora Machel, and I trained 28 boys in Montepuez in Mozambique. 28 boys. 28, as they call them in Portuguese. 28, 28. It is those 28 boys who built up this army, the one of Uganda. 28. So all this chaos which is going on is really an ideological problem. Because people don't know how to build an army, whether you have money or not. Because whether I have money or not, am I not going to defend my family? How can you say, because I don't have money, I should not defend my family? It's a conceptual problem. So therefore, that's why we say that Africa is very strong. If we work together, there is no force that can defeat us. Then finally, the issue of fraternity. We always emphasize that you people, by the way, the Africans you are talking about, these are people who are similar. All these groups, I can greet the Banyarwanda, I can greet the Barundi, I can the Bahaya in Tanzania, the Bazinza, Wakerewe. I can greet the Murembes in Western Kenya, the South Sudan. I can speak with the Achodis there, with the Kakwaz. That's why they were calling Idi Amin Sudanese or Congolese, because there are more Kakwaz in Sudan and in Congo than even here in Uganda. And we have Swahili. We have Swahili, which is even easier to unite us. So that's why, therefore, when I get a chance like this, to talk to the intellectuals in their own specific field of law, to bear in mind that this law will work better if the society changes. And if the society does not change, it may not work, or it may even suffer a regression. Well, that's what's happening in some of these countries like Burma, Latin America, Somalia now, all these West African countries, Burkina Faso, Mali. So what are the lawyers doing there? In that chaos, what are they doing? Or the judges? If the society does not change, is it really safe? You think you are a sure way of? So that's why, therefore, I encourage all the intellectuals to interest themselves in the need for social economic transformation of Africa. Now, coming to the finally, to which is partly in your area, when we are talking about integration, I think we should look at the USA. Those people had a smart way of doing things. First of all, they have the House of Representatives, where voting is by population. The more numbers you have, the more delegates you have. But they also had a Senate where they smartly said, no, whether you are a big province or a smaller one, you must have equal senators. Very smart, because you see, Rhode Island with the 300,000 people has got 2 senators. California, I think, has got more than 50 million people or something, has got 2 senators. You see how smart they were. Because they wanted to overcome the issue of those territorial rivalries. So yes, the House of Representatives numbers. But whatever the House of Representatives passes will not become law unless it is approved by the forum of the states on equal basis. Very interesting. So even here, when we are talking about integration, because otherwise, if you mishandle integration, it can backfire. I think this is really both in your area and in my area. It is both an issue of strategy, but also an issue of legality. Because, for instance, even here in a smaller land like Uganda, we had the issue of land. We used to have something we called Uganda Land Commission. This was controlling all the land in Uganda. They would be the one to give land to this one, to the other one, to the other one. When we came into government, I had mamas. Some of these people want to come and grab our land, meaning the tribal land. So I detected, I said, okay, the land is no longer a Uganda matter. It is a district matter. You, the districts, you handle your own land. The district land boards. The Uganda Land Commission will only handle the land of the government, the ranches, the government offices, and so on. Now they are there, they are the ones stealing the land. What would huko wanaiba udongo huko in the districts. But it removed the other poison of saying some people from the center want to come and steal our land here in our district. So in the integration, I would want to challenge the intellectuals, and including the lawyers, which are the matters that should be for integration, and which are the ones which should remain local. For instance, land. I don't think land should ever be a federal matter, because that will divert us, will cause unnecessary arguments. It should always remain either a state matter or even in our cases it is a district matter. The district land boards. Yes, the central land board maintains some quality control to ensure that they are following the law. How about jobs? You hear people talking about jobs in the bureaucracy. Jobs. In the bureaucracy. Then how about jobs in the factories? All these issues you should think about them. What should be East African? What should remain country? What should go lower? Then you'll have people comfortable. Me, because I am a wealth creator, what I want from East Africa, first and foremost, is a market. To buy my milk, buy my beef, buy my bananas, buy my whatever I'm selling. The market, integrating the market. Then we can add other things, slowly, but carefully. So I'm therefore very happy that you came for these seminars. These seminars will help us to discuss. I know, I hear that Africans spend a lot of time watching football of European clubs. I've never watched, somebody asked me, which club do you support? Clubs. I was a footballer myself. I last played football in 1966. Once I got involved in these Ugandan issues, I forgot about football, either to play or to watch. So, okay, you may be watching football, but please, these seminars are also good, so that we come and brainstorm and bring up this issue, bring up that issue. So I'm really very happy. Hongera sana kuja kwenye majadiliano haya. Mungu awabariki. Thank you very much.
Session. We shall be guiding you on how this will go. We shall start with the high table, which will join His Excellency, and thereafter we shall have one of the justices and judges of the East African Court of Justice, and then I will be announcing the few others which will follow from there. I request the protocol team to help us organize that in order to save time.